Hey there, drowsy historian here. Tonight you're not a discerning traveller. You're not Marco Polo, and you're certainly not a gourmet. You're just another overheated soul with an empty belly and poor judgment, stumbling through the chaotic gutters of 14th century Delhi. You've got a handful of copper coins and the kind of hunger that makes questionable meat look like salvation. And in a few moments, you're going to eat something that was cooked in reused oil, served on a leaf that's been licked by 3 goats and a toddler, and garnished with despair. It will taste spicy. You will regret everything. Before your stomach implodes like a cursed amphora, and your final thoughts are a prayer to be reincarnated as something less gullible, do me one small favour. Leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing who's tuning in from around the world. And if you'd like early access to these quietly horrifying bedtime stories, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find the Patreon link in the description. But for now, lie back, get comfortable. Let's begin. You arrive in Delhi not as a pilgrim, nor a scholar, nor anyone of consequence. You're simply hungry, tired, and regrettably alive. The sun is already climbing, though it feels less like light and more like punishment. You've been walking for hours, maybe days, hard to say, when the dust on your feet is the same colour as your thoughts. Your clothes hang off you in damp wrinkles, and your skin has taken on the hue and texture of overcooked flatbread. You are not ready for what's ahead. You've convinced yourself otherwise, but your body disagrees. Loudly. The road leading into the city is a procession of increasingly poor decisions. Oxen plod through puddles that haven't been water in days. Dogs snarl half-heartedly at chickens. Everything stinks, but not in a single clear way, in a layered, suffocating way that demands your full attention. There's the sour bite of old milk, the cloying sweetness of decaying fruit, the high tang of manure and sweat, and beneath it all, a fetid note like wet wool soaked in blood. You try not to breathe too deeply, which helps until it doesn't. The air clings to your tongue anyway, like invisible sludge. And worse than the smell is the heat, thick, stagnant, and so physical it might as well be another set of hands pushing on your chest. This is Delhi in the reign of the Tughlaqs, a city swollen with ambition and chaos. It sits like a jewel pressed too deep into unwashed skin, brilliant from afar, but up close, infected. The sultans have built monuments, yes, mosques and forts and roads lined with lampposts, but no amount of stone can hold back the crush of people, animals, and waste that floods its streets each morning. And you are now among them, indistinct from the rest, one more moving shape in a crowd that's never quite sure where it's going. You've been told this place is the heart of the world, a crossroads of culture, a seat of learning, a centre of trade. But none of that matters when your stomach is gnawing on itself, and your feet are beginning to blister in patterns you've never seen before. The flies already know you're weak. They orbit your face in confident arcs, landing on your lips, your eyelashes, the open wound on your ankle. You swat them. They return. You stop swatting. They stay. You spot the outer walls of the city, proper, tall and uneven, patched with repairs and streaked with years of runoff. A gate yawns open, guarded more by suggestion than by force. 2 half-dozing men with spears that have never tasted use. People pour in and out without pause, merchants with carts, beggars with nothing. Children balancing baskets on their heads, and you, sweating, unsure and slowly losing your sense of smell to a kind of olfactory shock. The crowd doesn't part for you, it swallows you whole. Inside the walls, the temperature somehow climbs. The sun reflects off the stone and sand until the shadows themselves feel like furnaces. You wipe your brow and find it sticky, not with sweat but with soot. You blink and the world blurs. Every surface seems alive. Walls crawling with vines, gutters crawling with rats, doorways crawling with people, too tired to stand. You pass a man squatting on a ledge, scraping something unidentifiable from his shoe with a sliver of metal. You pass a woman pouring water over her head while her baby suckles nearby, both of them glossy with grime. A pack of dogs lopes past, one dragging something that was once edible. None of this slows down. No one stops for anything. The smell changes again, now sharper, smokier. There's wood burning somewhere and meat, bad meat. You hear clattering metal, shouts, and the wet thunk of something being chopped. You're nearing the marketplace, you can feel it before you see it. Your stomach tightens, not with fear, not yet, but with expectation. The animal part of you that still believes in food begins to stir. You feel its hope like a betrayal? Your tongue is dry, your breath is shallow. Your entire body has become a complaint. And still, some part of you insists that the answer to your misery lies just ahead, past the shouting and the smoke and the stench, that somewhere inside this boiling, seething city there is a meal with your name on it, a bite that will ease the hunger, a dish that will make this walk worth it. It's wrong, of course, but you don't know that yet. You wipe your hands on your tunic, straighten your back, and step toward the chaos, toward the noise, toward the food. The bazaar doesn't have a beginning. It simply emerges, like a rash, spreading out from the city's arteries until you can no longer tell what's street and what's stall. There are no clear paths, just gaps where carts haven't parked and where donkeys haven't defecated in the last few minutes. Canvas tarps stretch above your head like patchwork sails, casting irregular shadows across everything. Some offer relief from the sun, others simply trap the heat, turning the air beneath them into a slow-cooking stew of sweat, smoke, and human breath. The narrowness of the alleys means everything echoes. The sound of shouting bounces off stone and skin until the only thing you can hear is urgency. And shouting there is, constant, multilingual, aggressive. Merchants scream their prices with the desperation of men who know they'll be eating their own wares if they don't sell them. They jab fingers in your direction, thrusting food toward your face, daring you to refuse it. 2 for a coin, someone shouts in Persian. 3 for a blessing, cries another in Hindavi. You don't know the words, but you understand the tone. Hunger, both theirs and yours. It cuts through the noise like a whetted blade, and underneath all the human voices, there's another chorus. Livestock bleating, chickens shrieking, camels groaning like exhausted aristocrats. Somewhere nearby a child is crying. Somewhere else an old man is laughing. You try to focus on neither. The ground beneath you is not solid. It gives just slightly with each step, like walking across a kitchen sponge, soaked in something unspeakable. Open drains run alongside the stall rows, black and glistening, fed by the runoff of kitchens, urinals, slaughter pits, and perhaps sins. These narrow channels squirm with life, worms, flies, and other organisms that have thrived since before sanitation was even a concept. Every so often, someone empties a bucket into one of them. The splash sends droplets airborne. You stop breathing until the mist settles, then pretend that you didn't feel any on your face. No one avoids these gutters. They are simply part of the landscape, like walls or shadows. Children splash in them without hesitation. An old woman sets her produce basket down beside one to adjust her headscarf. A man rinses his hands in the runoff, shakes them dry with a flick, and then resumes kneading dough beside a bowl of raw onions. You watch this happen in real time. You make a note to avoid anything with dough. You already know you'll forget. The air is too thick to move properly. Spices hang in it like a cloud. Crushed cumin, chili, coriander, and turmeric swirl together with a visible haze that coats the insides of your nostrils and throat. It smells divine, right up until the next breeze carries the stench of meat, left out just a little too long. Somewhere close, ghee sizzles in a wide pan. A few stalls over, something furry is being skinned. You gag reflexively and pretend it was just the heat. Nobody notices. Everyone is already sweating. Flies move like coordinated militias, zipping between meat stalls, yogurt vats, and the occasional uncovered wound. You stop counting after the first dozen times you see a vendor casually wave them off a pile of food, only to have them land on something else within seconds. One butcher in particular catches your eye. His stall is arranged like a temple of carnage, strips of goat hanging from wooden hooks, congealed blood pooling around his feet. He slaps a thick hand against the carcass to chase away the swarm. They scatter momentarily, then relocate to the liver. He doesn't bother again. Further down, you spot a row of baskets filled with dried fish, curling, desiccated, their mouths still open in silent protest. The fish are stacked like firewood, seasoned by sunlight and disregard. A boy is turning them with a stick, searching for something that isn't brittle. He finds one, holds it up to the light, and pockets it with satisfaction. Behind him, a woman picks through a pile of green leaves infested with tiny holes and occasional spiderwebs. She doesn't flinch when one crawls across her wrist. You pass a man squatting behind a cart of sweets, dense, sticky blocks of jaggery and flour studded with slivered almonds. The confections glisten under a veil of dust and the occasional resting fly. He cuts the pieces with a knife he wipes on the hem of his robe. The robe is white, or it used to be. A child points at a treat and is handed one directly, barehanded. You note that the vendor licked his fingers moments earlier to count out change for another customer. You no longer want sweets. Next to him, someone is deep frying what looks like fritters. The oil crackles violently. It's dark, nearly black, and thick with crumbs from past batches. When he drops the batter in, the sizzle sounds triumphant. The fritters puff and bob, emerging golden, brittle, and wrong. You can smell the oil long before you see the cart, old, angry, and full of memory. The vendor doesn't skim the oil. He doesn't need to. It's self-sustaining now, alive with its own fungal consciousness. The batter barely matters anymore. It's just a delivery system for the grease. A goat ambles past you with half a banana peel in its mouth. It looks pleased. A second goat is nibbling at a discarded food wrapper near a drain. You recognise it. The same kind the fritters are served in. You look at the wrapper, then at the cart. They match. You do the math. You stop doing the math. You will forget this too when you're hungry enough. Somewhere to your left, someone is preparing pan, betel leaf folded around a raker nut and lime paste. He assembles it quickly, efficiently, with fingers stained deep red from years of the same motion. He smiles at a customer, hands it over, then turns and spits a long crimson stream onto the street, narrowly missing your foot. You are not offended, you are grateful. He could have hit you. The street welcomes his contribution without protest. It will become part of the texture now, like every other secretion. You haven't even eaten yet, but already your stomach feels like it's shrinking away from your ribs, trying to retreat into your spine for safety. The thought of food, the reason you came here, is now indistinguishable from the thought of death. But still, the smell of fried spice and roasting lentils drifts past and lights a small treacherous fire in your chest. Hunger is resilient. It knows how to survive in places like this. It thrives where shame fails. The food stalls don't announce themselves with signs or menus. They announce themselves with smoke. Thick, oily plumes rising from clay stoves and open pans, drifting low across the bazaar like curses looking for somewhere to settle. It doesn't rise, there's no chimney, just a wide-mouthed tandoor with its mouth open to the street, exhaling heat and ash directly into the air you're trying to breathe. You cough reflexively and immediately regret it. The taste of smoke is acrid, but it's not just wood, it's fat. Goat fat, mostly. Possibly something else. The line between meat and fuel here is thinner than it should be. You linger beside one of the stalls, drawn not by the smell, because truly it's repulsive, but by the sound. A constant hiss and pop as oil meets batter, a wet crunch as cleavers strike bone, the slap of dough against hot clay. A man is tending a skewer of meat over open flame, turning it with a casual flick of the wrist. The meat itself is reddish, marbled with gristle, and just soft enough at the edges to suggest it's already halfway gone. Not gone as in cooked, gone as in surrendered. It's yesterday's leftovers, reheated, respiced, and renamed. The kind of meat that only becomes roasted because resurrected would scare customers. Next to the skewer, a shallow pot bubbles ominously. You lean closer and see chickpeas swirling in a muddy broth, The surface is dotted with a slick rainbow sheen that might be oil or might be something more mineral. You ask yourself where the water came from. There is a river nearby. You've seen it. It's the same one the tanneries dump into, the same one the bodies are sometimes floated down when there's no room in the ground. You suspect no one asked the river's permission before boiling beans in it. You take a step back. The pot continues bubbling, unaware of your doubt. A row of small bowls rests along a low wooden shelf, each containing some kind of chutney. They range in colour from green to a green that looks like it's trying to be brown. The ingredients are listed nowhere, but it's clear they involve herbs, spices, and something wet enough to ferment in open air. One of the chutneys has visible flies drowning in it. Another has something moving under the surface. Perhaps just a bubble, or perhaps something that wasn't quite chopped finely enough. The vendor doesn't seem concerned. He picks up a ladle, sniffs it, shrugs, and uses it anyway. You think of asking what's in the green one, but then you remember where the herbs were grown, in soil fertilized with night soil, which is a polite historical phrase for human feces. You decide not to ask anything. The man cooking is multitasking, if you can call it that. He scratches his stomach absently with one hand, long, deliberate strokes under the edge of his tunic, then uses the same fingers to stir a pot of sauce. It's yogurt-based by the look of it, but not the kind you'd see in a clay bowl beside naan in a restaurant menu. This is warm, yellowing, and slightly effervescent. A slow bubble rises and bursts near the rim. The cook doesn't notice, or he notices and simply doesn't care. He stirs, wipes his hand on a cloth so stained it might be older than you, then tastes the sauce with his pinky. He nods, approving of his own resilience. Further down the row, a woman is assembling fried parcels of some kind, triangles of dough stuffed with a mixture of mashed lentils, dried onion, and unspoken hope. She folds them quickly, her fingers moving with muscle memory rather than thought, and drops them one by one into a vat of oil so dark it reflects no light. It hisses like a snake each time. The oil bubbles not with heat, but with resentment. You can smell every food ever cooked in it, all layered into a single violent aroma. Fried dough, scorched garlic, spoiled butter, rancid ghee. One piece floats to the top, bloated and golden. She removes it and places it directly into a customer's palm. That customer smiles, chews, swallows, lives. You begin to question your standards. You pass a cart stacked high with flatbreads, paratha maybe, or something trying to be. They're round and blistered, charred in places, and served with a small dish of pickle that smells strongly of something that once had ambition. The pickle is chunky and red, and might contain chili or mango, or possibly bone. The vendor doesn't say. He scoops a portion out with his hand and slaps it onto the bread before handing it off. His fingernails are dark at the edges. His knuckles are cracked. There is a stain on his thumb that could be turmeric, or blood, or a mixture of both. You keep walking. At one stall, a boy no older than 10 is peeling onions with a knife that looks like it was once a gardening tool. He peels them fast with practiced violence, dropping the skins onto the floor where chickens pick through them. The onions themselves go into a bowl already half full with chopped garlic and crushed chili. The whole mixture will be thrown raw into a pot of steaming lentils later, or spooned directly into a dish for garnish. No one will ask if the boy washed his hands. No one will care. He probably did. Once, all around you there is food, visible, hot, sometimes even appetizing from a distance. But up close, everything begins to fray. The textures are wrong, the smells are wrong, the methods are wrong. And yet every stall has customers. People laugh, they shout greetings, they dip bread into sauce and wipe their fingers on their clothes. This is normal, not safe but normal. You are the only one recoiling. You are the only one trying to trace the path from stomach to sewer before the first bite. You pause at a cart where a man is stirring something in a shallow copper pan. The mixture looks creamy, sweet, a kind of rice pudding maybe. You catch a whiff of cardamom, rose water, and something faintly medicinal. It's the best thing you've smelled all day. Then he reaches under the cart, grabs a jug without a stopper, and pours a ladle of pale, unidentifiable liquid into the mix. A small insect floats to the edge and clings to the surface like a castaway. The vendor stirs once more, then offers you a smile. You almost smile back. A bit later, you're staring down your first real meal in Delhi. It smells good. Against all odds and basic logic, it smells like something you could eat and maybe even enjoy. There's spice in the air, warm, heady, familiar. It reminds you of meals from better days, far away from open drains and soot-smeared stalls. You catch notes of cumin, coriander, black pepper, something sharp and sweet like clove or cinnamon. It hits you hard, flooding your mouth with saliva. You haven't even lifted a bite yet, and already your stomach has started begging. This is how it gets you, not with a scream, but with a whisper of flavour. Spice is the oldest lie in the culinary book, and you're ready to believe every word. You tell yourself, with the confidence of someone who once watched half a cooking documentary, that spicy food kills bacteria. You've heard it said, somewhere, maybe on a plane or in a pub. It's one of those comforting myths people use to justify eating whatever they want while travelling. Heat kills germs. Chilies are antiseptic. It's all natural. You say this to yourself as you watch a man stir a sauce with the same hand he just used to wipe his nose. The food looks beautiful from a distance. Rich reds and yellows, glistening oils, steam rising in fragrant tendrils. Up close, it tells a different story. The mutton, for instance, is soft, suspiciously soft. It gives way to the spoon too easily, collapsing into fibres that barely hold together. At first you tell yourself it's tender, well cooked. But when the edge of your spoon passes through the meat like it's wet tissue, you start to wonder. It's not just cooked, it's breaking down, like it's already begun to digest itself days ago, and now all you're doing is finishing the job. The stew it swims in is thick and glossy, with a slick of orange oil pooling at the edges like an oil spill. You can see tiny bits of onion floating near the surface, some of them raw, some of them translucent, and some of them simply wrong. The vendor ladles the stew into a shallow bowl made from pressed leaves, the rim of which is already starting to wilt from the heat. He tops it with a bright green chutney that smells like fresh herbs and the faint ammonia of improperly rinsed cilantro. There is a dash of yogurt too, warm, loose, and the colour of dishwater. It slides over the meat like surrender. Then there's the asafoetida, locally known as hing, a spice in theory, a biohazard in practice. The vendor sprinkles it on with reverence, like it's holy dust. The smell hits you a second later, something between a public latrine and a gas leak. People swear by it, say it helps digestion, say it adds depth. It does. It also adds the unmistakable aroma of a sewer that's given up on plumbing. You're told it balances the other flavours, and maybe it does in the way that a punch in the throat balances out a hangover. The bread looks safe at first. It's round, puffed, a little scorched at the edges, which seems promising. You tear off a piece and immediately regret touching it. The surface is slick. Not with butter or ghee, but with oil that's been used, reused, and used again until it's taken on the properties of something sentient. The bread sizzled in it just moments ago. So did everything else. You can smell its history. Fried lentils, old dough, burnt cumin, a trace of something sweet that probably wasn't meant to be there. This oil has been with the vendor longer than his wife. You dip the bread into the stew anyway. You tell yourself the first bite is always the worst, that once you get past the shock of texture and temperature, your body will adjust, that it's just unfamiliar, not unsafe. You've repeated this in your mind so many times now that it feels like wisdom. But when you finally lift the food to your mouth and take that first bite, all your optimism curdles on contact. It burns, not from heat, though it is warm, in the sense that swamps and compost heaps are warm, but from something deeper, a betrayal, thick and slow, that spreads across your tongue with the smugness of a secret that should have stayed buried. The outer layer of the bread is brittle, cracking in your teeth like dried skin. Inside, it's damp, stretchy, and tastes faintly of soap or maybe ash. The oil it absorbed has a memory, and what it remembers is rancid. You chew automatically, trying to ignore the way the edges coat your mouth in grease that doesn't wash down with the first swallow. You chase it with a scoop of stew. This time, the spice doesn't register. What you notice instead is the texture, chewy and slimy in equal measure, like biting into a sponge that's lost hope. The meat gives in ways meat shouldn't. The fat clings to your molars. Your jaw hesitates, as if waiting for you to come to your senses and spit it out. You don't. You try the chutney next. It's green, luminous in a way that feels unnatural. The smell has faded now. Your nose is numb, too saturated to distinguish one rotting scent from another. But your tongue is still working. The chutney fizzes against it lightly, like a dying soda. You pause. That's not a flavour. That's fermentation. Active fermentation. And it's still happening inside your mouth. You swallow before you can think too hard about it. Your throat burns slightly, but not from chili. This is something else, something bacterial. The yogurt sauce is next. You know it's a mistake the moment the spoon gets close. There's a sharpness in the smell, like milk that's trying to pass itself off as cheese, but isn't quite committed. You hesitate. A fly lands in the bowl, does a slow circle like it's browsing a menu, then takes off again. You scoop from the opposite side. It doesn't matter. You've seen what's in there. You've seen where it's been. But you're past the point of choices now. You're trying to prove something, even if it's only to yourself. As the yogurt hits your tongue, it splits into layers, sour on top, watery underneath. The spice tries to rescue it, but only makes things worse, dragging the sourness across your palate like a paintbrush dipped in curdled cream. You swallow it anyway. Your body flinches, not visibly, but internally, like a horse backing away from a cliff edge. Your gut makes a noise you haven't heard before, low and uncertain. It sounds almost thoughtful, as if it's deciding how angry it wants to be. You take another bite, slower this time. You chew with the deliberate caution of someone diffusing a bomb. The flavours don't mix, they compete. Salt punches sour, spice strangles sweet. The oil clings to everything like guilt. Somewhere in the mess you find a chickpea. It's firm on the outside, but mush inside, like a blister. You crush it between your teeth, and it releases a burst of earthy bitterness. You want to say it tastes like food, but it doesn't. It tastes like someone's idea of food that went horribly wrong in the execution phase. Your eyes water, your lips tingle, your throat begins to itch, not from allergy, but from raw irritation. You pretend it's the chili. It isn't. You take another bite. It's automatic now, your body moving faster than your mind, driven by some primal survival loop that hasn't updated since the last plague. This is food, it says. You are starving. Keep eating. Don't stop. But something is shifting. The warmth in your belly is no longer welcome. It feels intrusive, like a stranger crawling inside you with wet hands. The stew sits heavy and uneven, pooling in places it shouldn't. Your stomach starts to ache, not sharp, but slow and sullen. The kind of ache that says this isn't a warning, this is a consequence. You try to distract yourself with the bread again. It tears unevenly, the inside slightly wet, slightly raw. You pretend that's normal. You pretend the smell is normal too, even as it wafts upward and reminds you of a mop left too long in a corner. You dip it into what's left of the yogurt, then hesitate. The top layer has shifted slightly. There's a skin forming. You eat it anyway. The vendor watches you eat with mild interest. He doesn't smile, doesn't speak, just wipes his hands on a rag that's the same colour as dried blood and returns to tending the pan. Behind him, a new batch of meat is being unloaded. Slabs of something red and shiny, hanging limply from a hook that sways with each movement. Flies land before the cart has even stopped moving. No one seems to care. The system works, the customers eat, the vendors sell, the cycle continues. You glance around and see others eating. Still alive, still upright. A man beside you slurps a bowl of stew, licking his fingers with enthusiasm. A woman behind him is feeding a toddler something mashed and orange. The child chews, swallows, smiles. You wonder if their stomachs are made differently, if their bodies have evolved in ways yours hasn't. Or maybe it's just that they know not to ask questions. Maybe it's only foreigners who suffer because they pause long enough to doubt. You take one final bite. It's the worst yet. The flavour is metallic, faintly bloody, like biting into a penny that someone's already sucked on. The texture is sinew and mystery. You chew slower and slower, hoping the longer you chew, the less chance it has to kill you. You swallow hard, feel it slide down with the grace of a broken promise. It doesn't take long. Within the hour, something changes. It starts quietly, almost politely. Just a vague unease beneath your ribs. A bloated stretch that could almost be confused with fullness, if you were feeling generous. But you're not. You know your body too well, and this is not the contented ache of a satisfying meal. This is something else. Something brewing. Something waiting for the right moment to strike. You try to ignore it. You walk slowly, telling yourself that movement will help digestion, that this is just your body adjusting to spices, to new ingredients. You're lying, and you know it, but denial has momentum. The heat hasn't changed, but you begin to sweat in strange new places, under your eyes, along your spine, behind your knees. Not the casual sheen of a hot afternoon, but the cold, clammy perspiration of a body suddenly unsure if it's under attack. Your skin tingles, your ears ring faintly. Your pulse is slower, but harder, like your heart is bracing for something. You feel heavy, not from the food itself, but from the way your body is reacting to it, like it's sinking in slow motion through a thickening swamp of regret. Then comes the first wave. Not a cramp, not yet, but a slow churn, like the sound of water circling a blocked drain. Your stomach gurgles audibly, a deep, liquid sound that draws looks from a passing vendor. You glance away, pretending nothing happened, but something has happened. You feel it clearly now. The stew, the bread, the chutney, the yogurt, they haven't settled. They've begun to shift, mix, react. Your gut is no longer a container. It's a cauldron. Something is being summoned, and it is not benign. You take a seat on a stone ledge in the shade, trying to breathe deeply, hoping your posture will fix what's broken. It doesn't. If anything, sitting makes it worse. Your intestines stretch out beneath you, like a rope pulled too tight. You feel every inch of them, every unnecessary turn and loop, each one protesting. They don't feel like organs anymore. They feel like sentient beings, angry at your decisions, plotting mutiny. There's pressure now, low and ominous, like the first crack of thunder on a distant horizon. You shift your weight, it follows you. You stand up again too quickly. The blood rushes to your head, then sinks back down as your stomach twists once more. The sweat is constant now, soaking through your shirt, beading on your forehead. Your lips feel dry and coated, like they've been lined with chalk. Your teeth ache, not individually, but as a group, like your entire jaw is registering discomfort in solidarity. You rub them with your tongue. It doesn't help. You start walking again slowly, scanning your surroundings for something, anything that looks like a latrine, a corner, a bush, a place to crouch and suffer in private. You pass a priest standing beside a small shrine, his robes pristine, his forehead marked with ash. He sees you. You make brief eye contact. He looks away. Even he won't help you. Even he knows there are some things prayer cannot fix. You want to laugh. You can't. Your throat is too dry. Your bowels have started a new conversation with gravity, one that's becoming harder to ignore. Every step you take feels heavier, more treacherous. You're no longer in control. You're only participating, one layer removed from the chaos unfolding inside you. The cramping begins in earnest about 10 minutes later. It's sudden and sharp, a twisting pinch just above your pelvis, followed by a spreading heat that moves downward like spilled ink. You pause mid-step, pretending to tie your sandal, but really just trying to buy yourself a few seconds to not soil your dignity. It's a losing battle. The pain comes in waves now. Tighten, release, tighten again, like your intestines are wringing themselves out. You exhale through your nose, slowly, trying to hold it together. It doesn't work. Nothing works. You make the mistake of looking behind a stall, thinking it might be a secluded place to relieve yourself. It isn't. It's worse. A pile of vegetable waste, crawling with flies, steaming in the heat. You gag once, dry and hollow. The cramp spikes again. You double over slightly, pressing your hand against your stomach. It's hard, not firm, hard. Like your insides are turning to stone. You need a toilet. You need a hole. You need a divine intervention. You get none of them. You consider asking someone for directions, but shame is louder than desperation. So you walk, faster now, trying not to limp, trying to act casual even as your body contracts around a core of boiling regret. You pass another vendor, this one selling sweets coated in silver foil, the kind that glitters like celebration. The smell hits you like a slap. Sugar, cardamom, ghee, and something slightly sour. Your stomach seizes. You look away before your mouth can betray you. Hunger is over. You are no longer eating. You are surviving. The sweat has soaked through your tunic now. Your hands are shaking. You clench your fists to hide it, but the tension is visible in your jaw, your shoulders. You feel stretched thin, like your skin is holding in too much. You wonder briefly if you'll explode, not figuratively, literally. You imagine a moment where your body simply gives up and releases everything at once. The mental image is not far from the truth. You pick up your pace. Each step is a question. Each jolt sends another ripple through your gut. You begin to consider the inevitability, that this is going to happen, that your body has already made its choice and is simply waiting for you to catch up. You feel another spasm, tighter this time, like a rope coiling in on itself. You stop walking. You press your hand to your belly. You breathe. And for a moment, just a moment, it holds. Then it moves again. You don't remember deciding to run. One moment, you're still walking, stiff, sweaty, clenching everything you can possibly clench. And the next, you're moving faster than you thought your body could manage in this heat. Your sandals slap against the uneven ground as you weave through the crowd like a man pursued. And you are pursued, though not by a beast or a soldier or even fate. You're being hunted by your own intestines. You feel it bearing down, internal pressure mounting like a tidal wave inside a very old dam. You need a place. Now you scan frantically, eyes darting from alley to alcove, but Delhi offers you no refuge. Every doorway is occupied, every corner teeming. You see one space behind a cart, dark and low, until a hand reaches out from the shadows and waves you away. Another alley turns out to be a sleeping space, its walls lined with curled bodies, none of whom seem interested in waking up to share their square of misery with you. You pass a shrine, but even in your state, you don't dare defile it. You keep moving, sweating harder, moving faster, the cramps now constant and punishing. Finally, you spot it. What passes here for a public latrine? It's not marked exactly. It doesn't need to be. You can smell it. A low-slung enclosure of crumbling stone, half covered by a canvas flap, with the kind of stench that has mass. You stumble toward it, no longer concerned with dignity or appearance. A man brushes past you as you enter, shaking his head and muttering something that doesn't sound encouraging. You lift the flap and immediately understand why. The latrine is a hole, not a pit. A hole, rough-hewn, dug shallow, and filled to the point of revolt. The edges are crusted with layers that suggest this place has not been cleaned in your lifetime, or anyone else's. The smell is indescribable, not because it's complex, but because it is complete. It fills every sense, crawls into your mouth, coats your throat. Your stomach turns again, and for a terrifying moment, you think you might vomit as well. You take a half step inside. The floor is wet. With what? You do not ask. There are 3 holes in total. One is already occupied, bare legs trembling in a squat. The second is full to the rim, with something black and writhing. You blink. Something in it moves. You do not investigate. The third is available. You lurch toward it like a dying animal reaching a stream, then hesitate just long enough to feel another cramp stab you in the abdomen. There's no time for thought. You yank up your tunic, squat low, and surrender. It is not a graceful process. There's no control left. What leaves your body does so all at once, with a force and sound you will remember until your death. Your groans echo against the stone walls, overlapping with the ever-present buzzing of flies. They descend immediately, as if summoned. You feel them land on your arms, your back, your legs. One brushes your cheek. You don't even swat it away. You have nothing left in you to fight. You think it's over. It isn't. Another cramp hits, deeper, hotter. The sweat is pouring off you now, not just from the heat, but from sheer exertion. Your legs tremble. Your hands brace against the wall, feeling the warm stone pulse with your heartbeat. Your breath comes in short gasps, shallow and sharp. You whimper. You don't mean to. It just happens. Your body has stopped asking for permission. When the worst of it passes, you stay squatting, afraid to move. The space beneath you still gurgles faintly. You know there's more. You know you're not done. The relief is fleeting, always followed by another ripple of nausea, another wave of regret. Your vision swims, your ears buzz. You wonder how much of you is left inside. You try to count the meals that brought you here. Every bite of mutton, every chickpea, every scoop of chutney that should have raised alarms. You curse them all. You curse yourself more. A goat appears at the entrance. You don't know where it came from. It stands there, staring at you, chewing something thoughtfully. Its eyes are blank, unreadable. You envy it. You envy the simplicity of its life, the sturdiness of its gut. You imagine eating what it eats, dry leaves, paper, trash, and surviving. It doesn't know the betrayal of yogurt. It doesn't suffer from fermented chutney or poisoned oil. It watches you groan in a stone hole and blinks slowly, then wanders away. You finally rise, legs numb and shaking. You feel hollow, not empty, violated. Your lower body aches in strange new ways. Your spine pops as you straighten. Your knees crack. You look down and immediately look away. There's nothing to clean yourself with. No water, no cloth. You do what you can with your tunic, which now bears the evidence of your defeat. You will never wear it again without remembering this moment. You may never wear it again at all. You stumble out into the sun like someone freshly unearthed. The light is blinding, the noise unbearable. The stench still clings to your skin, to your memory, to your soul. You walk slowly, carefully, one hand pressed to your side. People glance at you, then look away. They've seen this before. They know this story. You are not the first to be broken by the food. You will not be the last. You reach a low wall and sit, breathing shallowly, waiting for the world to stop spinning. Your stomach is quieter now, but not peaceful, just watchful. You know there's more to come. This was only the first salvo. The war inside you has many phases. You feel it lurking, waiting for the next opportunity to strike. You close your eyes, you breathe. You hear a fly land near your ear. You don't care. You think of the goat. You think of its simple diet, its indifference, its peace. You wonder what it would be like to chew paper and feel nothing. And then your stomach tightens again. You're no longer pretending this is something you'll recover from. That illusion died back in the latrine, probably buried beneath the thing that moved in the second pit. Now, sitting half-conscious in the shade of a crumbling wall, you're forced to confront a deeper truth. This isn't a bad day. This is a medical event. You are not unwell. You are dying. Slowly, of course. Horribly, yes, but undeniably. Your body has moved past protest and into surrender. And the enemy? Take your pick. Dysentery is the most obvious candidate. You're producing all the symptoms: explosive, uncontrollable, humiliating. Your bowels are no longer organs. They are weapons aimed inward. You've read about it, maybe, from a distance in books. It always seemed vaguely Victorian, like something confined to old ships or jungle expeditions. But here, it's not a footnote. It's a living thing, chewing through you from the inside out. The cramps are deeper now, like someone wringing your stomach out with calloused hands. You fold over every few minutes without meaning to. You don't even grunt anymore. You just breathe through it, shallow and wet. Of course, it could also be cholera. You've passed at least 3 water jugs in the last hour that might as well have been labelled death in a jar, river water, unboiled, stored in clay pots with open mouths, left out for the flies to bathe in. The chutney, the yogurt, even the stew, all of it could have been swimming with bacteria. Cholera doesn't waste time. It strips your body of moisture faster than you can blink. You're not vomiting yet, but your mouth is dry in that specific, terrifying way. Like your tongue has been pickled in salt and sand. Your lips are cracked. You tried licking them once. It made things worse. Your body is wet. Your mouth is dry. That's not a good ratio. You're sweating constantly now. Not from heat, not from exertion, but from pure, unrelenting effort. It's like your body is trying to flush something out and can't decide which end to use, so it's trying them all. Your shirt clings to you like wet paper. Your thighs are slick. Even your scalp feels damp, but your throat is sandpaper. Your thoughts stick together. You could drink something, you want to, but there's nothing here that won't make things worse. Then there's the possibility of parasites, intestinal worms, giardia, amoebas with names you'll never learn, but which will feast on your insides with cheerful precision. You can feel movement in your gut that doesn't feel muscular. It doesn't feel yours. It feels foreign, like something is uncoiling in your lower abdomen, testing the walls of its new home. You imagine long, pale ribbons curled around your intestines, chewing slowly. You hope it's your imagination. You know it isn't. You try to stand. You don't make it far. Your legs hold you, but only out of habit. You're lightheaded. There's a ringing in your ears now. Not loud, but constant. Like distant bells tolling for a funeral no one will attend. You wipe your face with your sleeve. It comes away slick. You wonder briefly how much water your body can lose before something important shuts down. You don't know the answer. You suspect you're about to find out. In theory, you could seek help. This is a city after all. There are healers, physicians, hakims who specialize in balancing the body's humours and correcting internal imbalances, but their treatments are limited. Cow urine is a favourite. Burnt peacock feathers ground into powder. Dried herbs tied to your wrist. Bloodletting. A prayer whispered over a bowl of clarified butter. You've heard stories of men cured with amulets, of children saved by the ash of holy men mixed into milk. But none of that is for you. You don't have the coin, the contacts, or the local knowledge. You are no one. You are broke, weak, and covered in the evidence of your own collapse. Even if you did find a healer, they'd ask questions. They'd want your history, your diet, your humours. They'd talk about heat and dryness, about bile and phlegm, and prescribe opposites. Maybe they'd tell you you've eaten too much warming food, that the fried snacks disturbed your internal balance, that the yogurt, improperly spiced, disrupted your cold constitution. You'd nod because it's easier than arguing. You'd accept the handful of herbs or the syrupy liquid or the heated blade. You'd take whatever they gave you, and you'd still die. You pass by a shop selling copper pots. The metal gleams in the light. A bowl catches your eye. Your reflection is ghastly, pale, glossy. Your eyes are glassy, your lips discoloured. You look like a corpse in the early stages of reanimation. You look away. It doesn't help. Your body still feels like it's fraying, like your muscles are losing their tension one by one. You sit on a step, not because you choose to, but because your knees bend and simply don't unbend again. You remain there, folded and useless. You see a man pass with a water jug. He's carrying it balanced on his shoulder, the clay dark with moisture. You want to ask him for a sip. You want to scream. But your tongue is thick, your jaw heavy. The thought of swallowing anything is now both a fantasy and a threat. You close your eyes instead. It feels easier, not better, just easier. Time slows. You aren't sure how long you sit there. Your stomach gurgles again. Less violently this time, but with a note of finality, like it's finished making its point. You know better than to trust the calm. This is the eye of the storm. Another wave is coming. You wait. You breathe. You consider crawling. Around you, the city continues. The market moves. Vendors shout. Children run past, trailing dust and laughter. No one notices you. No one cares. You're not unique. This happens every day. Someone eats the wrong thing. Someone chooses the wrong stall. Someone like you. Your brain begins to dissolve before your body does. It happens slowly, subtly, the way dusk overtakes daylight. Not with a flick of darkness, but with a gradual fading of clarity, until you can't quite remember what things are supposed to look like. Shapes stretch, colours blur, sounds arrive seconds late, muffled and echoing, like someone shouting into a jar. You blink more often now, not to clear your vision, but to convince yourself that the world is still there. Your fever has arrived. It doesn't ask permission. It rolls over you like a warm tide, coaxing sweat from every pore, making your breath shallow and fast. The ache behind your eyes pulses with the beat of your heart. You feel it in your teeth, your skull, the bridge of your nose. Your tongue is dry and swollen. You can taste the heat, bitter, metallic, sour around the edges, like unripe fruit. You lick your lips again. Nothing improves. You think you see water, a basin beside a shrine, a bucket in the shade, a clay jug balanced on the windowsill of a house that might not exist. You stagger toward it, half sure, half hopeful, but when you reach it, it's gone, or never there to begin with. Just a shadow, just a rock, just another cruel shape made of heat and dust. You laugh, then cough, then bend over with the effort. The laugh doesn't come back. You see a door with a sign you can't read. You convince yourself it's a toilet. It has to be. It looks like salvation. You limp toward it, leaning on the wall, dragging your feet across the uneven stones. When you reach it, your hand fumbles with the wood. The door creaks open and you find nothing inside. Just broken crates and something that might be a pile of cloth or might be a person. You back away slowly. Your bowels clench once, then loosen, then go silent again. The danger recedes, but only because your body is too tired to try. You wander back toward the noise of the market, not by choice, just by inertia. It's the only thing loud enough to tether you to reality. You follow the shouts and the clatter of pans like they're music. They lead you into a corridor of stalls, a narrow lane of heat and smoke, where smells bloom and curdle in your nostrils. You're not hungry. You've moved past hunger. Food is no longer a temptation. It's a threat, a ghost, a mistake you already made and will never escape. A vendor steps into your path. He holds out a bowl, smiling. You don't know what's in it. You don't care. He says something in a language you barely recognize. You shake your head. He insists. You look at the food and start crying. Not dramatically, not with sobs. Just a slow, silent leak from the corners of your eyes. You can't stop it. You can't explain it. It's not sadness. It's exhaustion. Despair. The kind that lives in your muscles and behind your ribs. The kind that has no words, only tears. The vendor stares at you for a moment, then shrugs and turns away. You're no longer a potential customer. You're just part of the scenery now. One more filthy, broken figure, slumped between transactions. You find a patch of shade behind a cart, press your back to the stone wall, and slide down until you're sitting on the ground. You curl your knees to your chest. The cobblestones are warm. You pretend it's comforting, that the heat is deliberate, that someone meant for this to happen. You lose time, not all of it, just minutes here and there. The sun moves, the shadows change, a bird lands nearby, pecks at something shiny, then flutters off. You close your eyes. When you open them again, there's a dog sniffing your empty bowl. A thin thing, patchy fur, ribs like ladders. He sniffs, then licks. You watch him. You don't shoo him away. You don't move at all. He deserves it more than you. You think about petting him. Your hand doesn't lift. A breeze passes through the alley, and it feels like an event. You tilt your head toward it, eyes half-lidded, letting it brush across your skin. It smells like dust and cumin. You pretend it's relief. The heat comes back seconds later, heavier for having left. Your body aches everywhere, but dully now, like the pain has grown tired too. Even your cramps have faded, not because you're better, but because your insides are finished trying. Someone steps over you. You look up. A woman carrying a bundle of cloth. She doesn't stop. She doesn't look down. You're not in the way, you're beneath notice. You wonder if this is what dying in public feels like. Not dramatic, not violent, just slow and quiet. A long slide into stillness while everyone else carries on around you. A pair of children play nearby, throwing pebbles at each other and laughing. One glances at you, then returns to the game. You imagine calling out, asking for water, for help, for anything, but your voice is locked behind your teeth, thick with dryness and fear. You let it stay there. It's easier. You begin to hallucinate in earnest. You see faces that aren't there, hear names you don't recognize. You think someone touches your shoulder, but when you turn, there's no one. You hear water again, the unmistakable trickle of a stream, but it's only a merchant pouring dregs from a bucket into the gutter. You watch it swirl around trash and vanish down the slope. You feel an emotion, but it's too vague to name. Your thoughts slow. They begin to loop. You keep thinking about the chickpeas, about the moment your spoon cracked the surface of the stew, about the bubbling yogurt and the effervescent chutney. You see them in your mind, circling like vultures. You remember the goat, the flies, the heat rising off the stone. You remember the first bite. You curl tighter against the wall. The dog is gone. The bowl is still there. You think about throwing it. You don't. You're too tired. Your body has become a container for ache and heat and filth. You can feel yourself fading, not with panic, but with resignation. You're not going to be helped. You're not going to be saved. You're going to lie here until your fever climbs higher, or your gut finally wins the argument. And when you're gone, someone else will take your place. Someone else will be hungry. Someone else will smell the spices and believe in the illusion. And the food will still be here, waiting. You can no longer stand, nor sitting. Your muscles have stopped negotiating. Your joints are locked in a state of quiet revolt. Even gravity seems reluctant to bother with you now. You are not in pain exactly. You've moved past pain. Pain implies action, urgency, a body that still wants to live. What you feel now is absence, an aching emptiness, hollow and soft, like your organs have liquefied and left a puddle somewhere beneath your ribs. Your fingers twitch occasionally, not with purpose, but with leftover electricity, a final suggestion from a brain that's still flickering in the dark. You try to lift your head. It doesn't work. You can feel every vein pulsing in your skull, throbbing with heat, like your blood is trying to escape. You keep your eyes half closed, not because you're tired, though you are, but because light hurts. Even the dusty grey of midday burns at the edges of your vision. Shadows stretch and blur. The outline of a cart becomes the silhouette of a man. A hanging cloth turns into a bird, then into nothing at all. You've stopped trusting what you see. Your thoughts are strange now, incomplete. They drift in loops, the same images playing again and again. The stew, the bowl, the spoon, the chickpeas. You think of them with maddening clarity. The way they floated in the broth, bloated and pale. The way they burst between your teeth with a softness that felt like it had gone too far. You can still taste them. Earthy, metallic, bitter. You cannot stop thinking about chickpeas. Just chickpeas. Forever. Your stomach is quiet now. Not calm, just finished. There's nothing left to purge. It's settled into a kind of silence that feels final. A mutinous organ that has done its work and now waits for the rest of you to catch up. You haven't moved in what feels like hours. The world moves around you. Feet pass, carts rattle, animals grunt, but you are no longer part of it. You are a fixture now, a human-shaped object at the edge of the road. A voice cuts through the haze, familiar. rhythmic, loud. You blink and turn your head just enough to see him. The vendor. The one who sold you the stew. He's still there, still calling out, still ladling the same sludge into the same leaf bowls. The line hasn't changed. A man steps forward, coins in hand, points at the pot. The vendor smiles just like he smiled at you. He spoons out a portion and hands it over. You watch in slow motion as the customer takes his first bite. His face doesn't twist. He doesn't recoil. He chews, swallows, speaks, laughs. You feel your stomach clench once more. Not from sickness, but from something deeper. Rage, maybe. Despair. You try to say something. Try to lift a hand to warn him. A low sound escapes your throat. Not a word. Not even a moan. A wet, rattling gurgle like someone trying to whisper through a mouthful of water. No one hears you. Or if they do, they pretend not to. People pass by without looking down. One man steps over your legs without hesitation. A woman glances at you, then away, her eyes scanning the stalls instead. You are not the first body to collapse in this street. You won't be the last. You are part of the background now. An unfortunate blur at the edge of the market's tapestry. Your breathing has changed. Shallow, uneven. You can hear it echoing in your own head, rasping like sandpaper over dry stone. Your mouth tastes of metal and dust. You try to swallow and fail. Your tongue sticks to the roof of your mouth. Your lips are cracked and peeling. Your jaw aches from clenching. You didn't know you were clenching. Somewhere nearby, a child laughs. The sound is pure and sharp, and it cuts through you like a shard of light. You remember being that small once. You remember running past food stalls, not because you wanted food, but because the street was wide and the sun was bright and your legs still worked. That memory fades almost as quickly as it arrived, dragged back under the weight of your fever. A fly lands on your cheek. You don't move. Another crawls across your lips. You can feel the tickle of its legs, the weightless presence of something that doesn't see you as a person anymore. You aren't. You are heat and moisture, that's all. You let it crawl. You let them all. You blink again and see the vendor laughing with a new customer. A full bowl changes hands. You wonder if it's the same pot, the same spoon, the same oil. You hope it is. You hope it never runs out. Let it feed 1,000 more like you. Let them eat and suffer and slump beside you. Let them learn the way you did. But no one learns. That's the trick. Hunger always wins. It drowns memory. It rewrites experience. Someone will always be desperate enough to try. Someone will always believe they're different. Smarter. Stronger. Immune. You close your eyes, not all the way. Just enough to block out the movement. The cobblestones beneath you are still warm. Your body still buzzes faintly. Your limbs are heavy. Your chest lifts and falls, slower now. You don't feel fear, just inevitability. The slow, quiet knowing that your name will not be remembered, that your death will be one among many, that you will be stepped over, swept around, forgotten before the sun goes down. You die before sunset. Not suddenly, not with drama. There is no gasp, no final word, no reaching hand or wide-eyed moment of revelation. It happens in stages, like everything else. First, your breath flattens, shallows out until it's barely more than a whisper. Then your limbs stop bothering to twitch. Then your eyes stay half open and do not blink. You are not discovered. You are not rescued. You are simply noticed eventually. Someone pokes your body with a stick, not maliciously, just curious. A small crowd forms, not out of concern, but routine. The way people pause to look at a broken wheel or a collapsed wall. There's no alarm, no one screams. A man shrugs and says something about heat stroke. Another says you looked sick earlier. A third complains about the smell. Eventually, someone with a cloth over their mouth drags your body by the ankles toward a side alley. Your heels leave 2 pale streaks in the dust. No one follows. You're buried in a shallow pit. It's not a grave. It's a space between 2 stones near an open sewer where the runoff softens the ground just enough for digging. The pit is not lined. It is not marked. A few half-hearted scoops of dirt are kicked over you, enough to discourage scavengers, but not enough to suggest dignity. There is no rite, no chant, no coin placed on your tongue. Your death is functionally identical to a dead goat's, possibly less memorable. No one records your name. You didn't give it to anyone. No one asked. There is no list you're added to, no tally marked in charcoal on a city wall. The only evidence of your passing is the stain your final collapse left on the cobblestones, and the half-empty bowl someone eventually kicked aside. Someone might have commented on the smell. Someone might remember a foreigner who cried after being offered food. But they won't remember you. Not your face, not your voice, not your story. Your bowel movements, however, live on in local memory. For a while at least. A vendor who saw the mess behind the latrine tells the story with laughter. How some unfortunate soul couldn't even wait to squat before disaster struck. Someone else adds that they saw you crawling, that you tried to say something, but only gurgled like a fish left in the sun. Details shift, exaggerate, become entertainment. You are not mourned, you are recounted, not as a warning but as a joke. Back at the food stall, the vendor wipes off the same knife he used yesterday. It's stained, of course, but stains are just seasoning now. He stirs the stew with the same ladle, adds more water, more spice. The chickpeas are from a different sack, but not a cleaner one. The chutney bubbles in its clay pot, the colour slightly changed, but the flies don't mind. A few customers comment on the smell being stronger today. The vendor smiles and says it means the flavours have deepened. They nod. They eat. The city does not slow down. Nothing shifts. No great wheel of karma rebalances itself because you died in agony on a stone street. The sun rises again over a city still humming with commerce and heat and excrement. People shout, people cook, people defecate behind the same stalls. A boy steals a fig from a cart. A dog chases a pigeon and loses. Life continues. It always does. You are not necessary. Tomorrow someone else will arrive, hungry, cheap, stubborn. Maybe it's a traveller from another region, or a pilgrim with cracked feet and romantic notions. Maybe it's a city local, who should know better, but doesn't care anymore. They'll smell the stew and feel the same tug in their belly, the same whisper that says, "You'll be fine." They'll choose the same bowl, the same chutney, the same doomed attempt to fill themselves without consequence. They'll eat it, and they'll die full. They might last longer than you. They might make it through the first night, past the first fever. They might even believe they've survived. But the outcome is the same. Maybe it takes days, maybe it's quicker. Maybe it ends in a different alley, under a different tarp, beside a different cart. The city will accept them too. The pit will widen, and the vendor will keep serving. Not out of cruelty, not out of ignorance, but because this is what he does. He feeds people who need to be fed. What happens afterward is not his problem. You are not his problem. You never were. He has mouths to feed and coin to earn. You're just one more stomach in a long line of stomachs. One more body to process the stew before the stew processes the body. You never became a cautionary tale. You didn't live long enough. There is no sign beside the stall now. No warning carved into the stone. No fellow traveller gripping a stranger's arm and saying, "Don't eat here." Even if there were, hunger would win. It always does. Flavour forgives everything. Spice makes martyrs of us all. And so your legacy is this. You were here. You died. Nothing changed. The bowl is cleaned. The bench is wiped. The next customer steps forward. That brings us to the end of tonight's tale of fermented chutney, intestinal ruin, and quiet historical indifference. If you're still listening, thank you for sticking through it. If you'd like early access to more slow, grim descents into the forgotten filth of history, ad-free audio of the episodes, or just want to support the show, you'll find a link to the Patreon in the description. Feel free to like, subscribe, or leave a comment with other forgotten corners you'd like to see unearthed. If you're listening on a podcast app, a rating or review helps others find their way to these stories. And special thanks to the supporters who make this show possible, including